Today we need to talk about Bobby Bowden, who passed away at the age of 91. And all that's coming up after the bumper.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You gotta help me with that corner shit.
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always college football related, sports related. We have a good time. Today, we need to talk about former Florida State head coach Bobby Bowden, who passed away at the age of 91. This news is sombering to the sport as Bobby Bowden is one of the titans in the sport. And we're going to describe why that is here over the course of this remembrance. But I wanted to start with this and give Bobby his due because Coach Bowden was the first coach that I really fell in love with as a kid. You got to remember, I'm born in 1987, which means that I didn't get to see Coach Switzer do his thing at OU, and I didn't get to see Jimmy Johnson do his thing at Miami. I got to see Bobby Bowden make Florida State into a monster after not being anything like a monster. And at the time, I was living in Panama City, Florida. My dad's job was there. So I got an up-close view at Florida State. As a matter of fact, one day I will tell you about how I became an Oklahoma fan, but it had a lot to do with living in Panama City, Florida, and watching Torrance Marshall go up to Chris Winkie and say he came to get his boy's Heisman back. But one of my favorite stories, and we'll get to a few of them, is one that Bobby Bowden tells about getting to Florida State. So this is in the New York Times obit about him. When Bobby Bowden became the Florida State coach in 1976, he inherited a program that had won 4 games over the previous 3 seasons. The modest crowds at Seminoles Doak Campbell Stadium in Tallahassee had plenty of room to stretch on the metal bleachers. Quote, "When I was at Alabama, the bumper stickers read, 'Beat Auburn,'" he recalled in his book, The Bowden Way, which was published in 2001. He co-wrote that with his son, Steve. "When I was at West Virginia, they read, 'Beat Pitt.' When I came to FSU, the bumper stickers read, 'Beat Anybody.'" I love that because it also demonstrates just how far Florida State has come. It began as a women's university in the 50s. At the time, you got to remember, Florida A&M is destroying people. Florida is the school. Miami's not really thought of, but they had started to become who they were becoming around 1980, right, when Howard Schnellenberger took over. But there's a number of things that I would point to, and one of them is the man had a penchant for telling good stories and being a part of good stories, letting himself be the butt of the joke. Pat Forty, in his remembrance in Sports Illustrated, told the story of right before the Orange Bowl, when Florida State is playing for its first national championship it would win against Nebraska. Bobby Bowden had been asked for the millionth time, what's it going to be like for you to win the big one? How are you going to win the big one? And he asked the group of assembled reporters, what is the biggest award in y'all's profession? The Pulitzer? To which New York Times columnist George Vexey said, Marriott points. And there's a number of sports writers who know exactly why that joke is funny. And if you don't, I'm sorry. But that one was for us. The other thing to remember about Bobby Bowden is that he has an unparalleled amount of success after years in this profession. 377 total victories. Yes, got it. Cool. But this note is staggering to me. From 1987 to 2000, he never failed to win at least 10 games. And to put in perspective just how difficult that is to do, Nick Saban hopes to do that this year, go on that kind of a tear, that kind of a run. And when you think about the kind of players that Bowden had, Peter Warrick, who might be the greatest wide receiver nobody ever talks about, Charlie Ward, who was not just a Heisman winner at quarterback, but also got drafted in the NBA and decided to play professional basketball when he could have just as easily played quarterback in the NFL. Deion Sanders, primetime, as all of us know him, recruiting Randy Moss and then redshirting him, knowing damn well that as soon as he was able to play, they were going to be monsters, trying to give a dude a shot like that, and it just not working out. But that's part of who Bobby Bowden was, and that's why I make the comp to Jimmy Johnson and Barry Switzer. Man wanted to win, right? And he wanted to win at Florida State. And the story that I think a lot of people remembered or saw for the first time in the movie We Are Marshall is Bobby Bowden's character showing the guys at Marshall who just taken over the program film of how they ran their system, their offense. And he's walking in to show them, hey, this is the film room. You guys stay as long as you like. One of his players walks in to see Coach Bowden, ask him a question. And on the back of the helmet, the coaches at Marshall notice there is a remembrance of their team who had tragically passed away. And Bobby, not wanting to embarrass them or want to act like they didn't see what they saw, took the helmet from his player and said the colors kind of clash, don't they? Of course, West Virginia is, blue and gold, and Marshall was green and white. And Matthew McConaughey's character says first class, coach. And it was his first class. It's the kind of gesture that you remember forever. It's the kind of gesture that moves us in the sport. It's the brotherhood of the sport. It's the family of the sport. When we are at our best in the sport of college football, and that's not as often as I would like, we're doing things like that. Seminoles were also unbeaten in bowl games from 1982 to 1995, which is, again, ridiculous. And his last game was a Gator Bowl victory over West Virginia, team he used to coach, January 1, 2010, concluding a 7-6 season. He left behind a program that was floundering and had been engulfed in scandal, but Jimbo Fisher picked that up and won a national championship with Jameis Winston at quarterback. Again, I said 377 victories, just 129 losses, 4 ties in 44 seasons at Samford, West Virginia, and Florida State. He is number 2 in career coaching wins behind Joe Paterno, who was head coach at Penn State, seemed like forever, like sincerely forever, going so far back as to get upset that Richard Nixon had decided that the national champion in like 1969 was going to be the winner of Texas-Arkansas when Penn State had gone undefeated, and we're like, yo, what? Come again? So there's lots of ways to go down this, and many of you know that I am a history nerd, right? I'm a nerd about the sport. I'm a nerd about Black history, American history, all of it. And to know that we have lost a man like Bobby Bowden, who also saw so much, born in 1929. For perspective there, that makes him a contemporary of Martin Luther King, Johnny Carson, Sonny Liston, and Malcolm X, all born in the same 4 years. That's remarkable, man. Like, he lived that long. He saw that much. And we are better as a sport for his wisdom and for the way that he pushed the sport forward with dudes as off in the weeds as Thad Busby and as great as Peter Warwick and Warwick Dunn. Lord love you, Bobby. We sure did. All right, that is it for me. Deuces.